Mala'i, we're here talking about your kitchen written assignment. I'm going to start with your reflective statement. Bless you. And then we'll go over the essay. And then I'll tell you what I think this would get if it got sent in, just as it stands, okay? All right, so for the written assignment, the reflective statement, a couple of just kind of odd phrases that I think would help if you cleared those up. You say, after the interactive oral, I was better able to understand the relationship between the contents of kitchen and the Japanese culture. I mean, I don't know, contents.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of a general term for just
Stuff.
the story.
Yeah, okay. I was better able to understand the culture,
Okay.
or the topics, or,
Okay.
topics might work, or subject matter works well. And then again, here with culture in which the book was set and where the author of the story originated. Seems really
I was just trying to get the
trying to get some
cultural
word.
and contextual,
Easiest way to do it is just to say it, and that is just rephrase it. My understanding of cultural and contextual considerations of kitchen was developed through the interactive oral, through the discussion of the author's background, relationships in modern Japanese culture, and the Japanese culture's treatment of death.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just say it. Once you've said it, then for each kind of paragraph that you have here, you want to start it with, in the interactive oral we learned, or in the interactive oral
Okay.
we discussed, or I discussed if you were part of it. You really want to emphasize the facts and the material that you learned rather than the connections to the novel so much. The
Mhm.
connections are going to be pretty obvious. So for instance, you've got some good, like for this one with the gender and living together, I
Yeah.
would go ahead and just put that with, this paragraph, in the sense that,
Okay.
we learned that in Japanese culture, it's, pretty uncommon for, boys and girls, men and women to,
Live together unless they're married or siblings.
right, even
Yeah.
schools are very segregated, which makes it even more unusual that Banana Yoshimoto's family allowed her to,
Yeah.
live with her boyfriend.
Live with her boyfriend.
Right. Okay, cool. With the tea ceremony, if you want to talk about it, tell us more about what you learned, rather than
Okay.
it's good to know.
Yeah.
Tell us what you learned,
Cool.
right? There's two kinds, different kinds of matcha and the other kind. Same for death. Maybe talk about the funeral, whatever. If you've got notes, go back and review those and just try and be specific.
Okay.
Okay, details is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Now, for your essay, really interesting topic. I think there's a lot of material to investigate here,
Mhm.
and I think toward the end you get into some of the better aspects of it. So, yellow is caution, green is good. Red means whoa, but blue is like yellow and green together.
Okay.
So it's like there's something good, but something that we might need to look at.
Okay.
I think one of your better sentences is here in green. The only reason I have banana and yellow is because once you introduce her as Banana Yoshimoto, for the rest of the text, call her Yoshimoto.
Okay.
Okay, the same is true for Camus,
Okay.
Neruda. Pablo Neruda, and then from that point on, it's Neruda.
Okay.
Albert Camus, it's Camus. It's just how we do it. Now, for characters, you can call them by their first name.
Mhm.
That's fine. But actual authors, last name only. All right. So we also want to keep it in the present tense. So Yoshimoto chooses to have women be the main focus on the subject of death. But the idea here is that Yoshimoto has deliberately kind of selected women to be the main characters.
Yeah.
That's a obvious and yet at the same time insightful observation, especially when we're talking about gender in the novel and in Japanese culture. I do think you've got a really good point here about how by having a transgendered person, especially a man that's become a woman, be one of the, if not protagonists, at least almost like heroes of the story. It really does. Yoshimoto highlights the struggle of being a woman in relatively modern Japanese society. So I think that's a really good point. I also think you've got an excellent point here with the confusion that it may have caused Yuichi as a young man becoming a man without the guidance, typical guidance of a male figure, even in a culture that seems less hyper-masculine than America, as you point out. I almost think that this is kind of where the essay could focus. Maybe start with this kind of idea. And I think your contrast here is Mikage's kind of ex-boyfriend. Is it Sakura?
Her ex-boyfriend?
Yeah.
Can't
remember.
What's his?
I'm pretty sure it's a
Sakura,
something like that.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good example, and I think one of the only ones that we have of this, what it means to be a man in Japanese society. Not only is he kind of a man's man, he's also the firstborn. And there's about a page discussing his characterization, and he's going to be what we would call a foil. So here's this character who is your kind of traditional masculine guy that Mikage was originally with, and she talks about why. Usually I like it, and I like the fact that he takes charge and makes the call, and I don't have to think so much around him. But something has changed, and part of that is her grandmother's died.
Yeah.
Part of it, I think, is she's been introduced to the possibility of being independent through this interesting character named Eriko. But Mikage ends up with Yuichi, who is kind of the
opposite of the traditional manly man.
Right, but he's still a man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that could yield a very interesting analysis, and then you don't have to necessarily you don't have to spend as much time on the gender change issue, because honestly we don't have as much actual textual information as we might want to make that the focus of the essay.
Yeah.
We don't really see anybody, there's nobody that gives her any grief.
Besides the guy who killed him.
And I don't think...
It was more his personal embarrassment, I think, rather than...
Yeah, his rejection rather than the the transgenderedness. I think
Yeah.
if she'd have gone out with him, he probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
She was just like, no, you're a super creeper.
Yeah.
Beat it. So, but I do think the idea of what it is to be a man and how Yoshimoto shows that, and almost by extension, what it means to be a woman as well,
Mhm.
through Mikage, through Eriko,
Yeah.
and really kind of what we end up with is this blending of roles based on more of a personal identity. You know, it's not that Yuichi's not a man, he's just not your typical hyper-masculine guy, and it's not that Mikage's not a woman, she's just not like those typical kind of, you know,
Japanese girly.
right, even the ones she works with,
Yeah.
right? So almost in each case we have this foil or foils that kind of show by reverse, you know.
Yeah.
What is it when you do like a negative with a photo? It's like, you know, you kind of flip the color gradation or whatever.
Oh, yeah, just some negativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounded smart in my head. Okay. Some of the stuff I've got in yellow is like this big chunk. We don't really need the author's background here.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I guess I can incorporate the fact that, like, should I even talk about how Yoshimoto
Not in this.
was in a liberal household? No.
Leave that in the
Reflective
oral.
statement.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We don't need it here.
Okay.
Because it's going to, I mean, essentially the claim is that Yoshimoto shows this transforming of Japanese culture, moth, I guess, through these characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not as worried about her at this
Yeah.
point.
Okay.
Okay?
Cool.
Be sure to oh, you just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, J. Japan. Okay, cool. And one reason I think it would help to focus on excuse me. Focus on what it is to be a man, what it is to be a woman, perhaps. We then don't get into this discussion of Eriko's. I mean, and it's not that the transgenders not worth examining. I just don't think this is accurate. Eriko's choice to becoming a woman resulted in her death later in the novel. I don't think that's.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think Yoshimoto is trying to move that message.
Okay.
I think that would detract from your knowledge and understanding if you
Okay.
included that. All right, cool. Last little tidbit here. This is just a fragment. We've got kind of, I don't know if you meant to leave it in or after Mikage had been confronted by Okumo, Yuichi's previous girlfriend.
Oh.
It's like it's an unfinished thought.
Yeah, maybe. I think I just moved on and didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so you see it. All right, cool. Anything, any questions for me?
I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just on the reflective statement. I think I'm working against the word count to standard 400. How important is it that I stay under 400?
It's
Really
important.
Okay.
Yeah, very. That's why I'm saying take out